So Akram Rahman, this is a...
Akram Rahman नहीं एक तो मेरा नाम
नहीं?
Yeah.
So for like 10 years I've been calling you.
You keep on calling me Akram Rahman.
So who's Rahman?
There is no one called Rahman. It's Abdul Rahman. My father is...
The Lord is Rahman.
Yeah, I understand that, but... Acha, then that's... Okay, well.
Abdul Rahman.
Acha. I will continue to call you Akram Rahman. I was about to say before you...
Your name is not Akram?
His name is Akram. His name is Akram.
My name is Muhammad Akram.
Right, but even
But
in
he
class
keeps
I
on
used to call
calling
him
me
Akram
Akram
Rahman.
Rahman.
I don't know why. So this is a full circle moment for you because you were a student and now you are an unpaid collaborator.
Unpaid collaborator.
How does that feel? How does that feel having to do this just because I forced you to?
First, you did not force me to.
Okay.
You requested me to.
Oh.
I had the option of saying no to you.
You know you did not. No, you did not. You were sadly mistaken.
Yet I was, kind enough and I considered
To
you.
oblige me, yeah,
And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, yeah, theek hai. Let's give it a try.
But I thought...
But no, to be honest, it's an honor.
Oh.
It's a
I am
pleasure.
touched.
It's very rare that you get to see this, that a student and a teacher sits together and then they have like
I know,
casual
after all these years.
conversation.
After all these years. But I felt, considering that you sort of... You teach film for a living. I
Not
thought...
for a living.
Let's not even talk about that. But considering how you, like myself, are a laborer in the field. We like film, we appreciate film. We've been doing that for a very long time. I thought that this would be best to be done with you. So yes, likewise.
Thank you.
And now that this mutual appreciation has ended, let us introduce the show. It is the last picture show on The Strangers. My name is Abdul Rahim Khan, and this is not Akram Rahman.
Muhammad Akram.
Muhammad Akram. And at least on today's episode, our very first, we're supposed to talk about, because this is something that I've been doing for like, I think about 10 or 12 years to a very, very limited audience on Facebook. I would always do a top 10 because as of the 1st of January, 2025, I had seen 214 movies.
Great.
Right?
I haven't seen that much.
No, I know you haven't. I know you
I don't have the time to see
you
that
don't have the
much.
time.
Yeah.
But seeing as how I do have the time, I think...
I keep on wondering, how do you manage that time and see a lot of films? I remember back in 2023 or 22, you posted a list.
Yeah, it was about 250, I think.
Yeah.
This year I kind of slipped up, but I don't think that was my fault. Work got in the way and stuff like that. But yes, on average, it has to be like 200 plus movies every year. I think that points to a life that has been misspent. I should have been spending time with, I don't know, like a wife and kids and stuff like that. Instead, I gave up on all of that.
But why haven't you?
I gave up on all of that stuff to watch movies. But the reason why I feel, at least this year, it was a struggle because, again, on average, there have been, over the years, there's always been such a abundance of movies to choose from and to like sort of whittle it down to a top 10 list. Yeah. This year is the first year in so many years, I would say in decades, that I was unable to put together a top 10 list. 2024 was a real shit year in film, at least by my reckoning.
By your reckoning.
By my reckoning. Yeah. I'm sure there are critics out there. I mean, if you check out NYT or any of these other ones, forget NYT, fuck those guys. But if you check any of these other top 10 lists, there's going to be like, a full list of like, oh my God, glowing reviews for the kind of shit that was put out in 2024. So again, I struggled this year and I've never struggled at all. But this year was just tough for me. I know you spent most of the year watching like, Egyptian dramas.
Recently, yes.
Recently.
That, yeah.
I don't know what's your favorite one among them. Maybe you want to mention.
I just watched a recent film. I keep on forgetting its name. It's a really good film. It made the rounds in Egypt. It's a love story between a police officer and a neighbor.
Oh, okay.
I watched it with my mom and it was really good.
Right.
I keep on forgetting the name. It's Salwa something, Mahmoud and Salwa or something like that. But it was good. But coming back, I feel to 2024, my 2024 wasn't as bad.
Okay.
I think I probably can list down 10 or 20 films that I
really?
think are good enough. and I can also scratch some out of from your own list.
Yeah, I know.
And say,
I know.
ये नहीं होनी चाहिए थी उसके अंदर ना.
Fair enough. Because in all honesty, I mean, this was my list that I kind of got you to watch.
Yeah.
So I think that there's going to be some overlap, or maybe not, but at least of the 6 movies, and I hate saying this, just 6 movies that I thought, and honestly, there were like 2 or 3 movies in this list that I thought were good, but in any other given year, they wouldn't have made the cut. They would have been like an honorable mention.
Yeah.
They would have definitely not made a top list for me at all.
Why do you think that it has happened that way in this time around?
So one thing that sort of, I don't know, keen watchers of what's it called have been keeping up with what's been going on in Hollywood in particular was the writers' strike that happened. So the Writers Guild, all of that they went on strike, and they went on strike for a good, like the latter half of 2023. What happened there was that everything that was in production, everything that was slated for release, here's a very good example, and a movie that has made it to my list at least, Dune 2. Dune 2 was supposed to release in November of 2023, right? But because of the writers' strike, solidarity with them, and sort of everyone being up in arms, everyone except of course the studio being up in arms against the entire Hollywood system, things were just got delayed. So Dune, instead of being released in November, got pushed to March of 2024. And that's why your entire release slate for the latter half of 2023 and then all of 2024, it just got bumped. They had to keep on pushing it. And then and then we get also forgetting is that everything that was in production at the time as well stopped. True. So I would say that sort of, please go ahead.
But that was like for a certain bunch of films.
No. Again, I mean, sort of like, they were trying to mitigate the actual...
Do you think the OTT or Netflix is also,
No, I mean...
having its own effect on the production line or something?
I mean...
Or look, people are, more inclined towards that?
Look, there is no doubt that the entire sort of model has changed. Yeah. People are now, but I mean, that is your viewing model.
Yeah.
That is how you consume that media. Yeah. That is not the media itself. Right? So the thing is that regardless of whether it is, what's it called, OTT, or whether it is in the cinema or you're pirating, you're downloading stuff. Regardless of that, that should not be affecting the quality of what's being put out. And again, I felt 2024 was a year that lacked severely in quality. Okay. We did not get the kind of stuff that maybe would have, again, I never imagined that there would be a year, considering that it's not just film from Hollywood, it's film from all over the world, right? But I don't know, for some reason or the other, this year just lacked in all respects. And I've never struggled like this before, considering that, again, I did go through 200 plus
films.
Movies.
And was not able to, get at
even cobbled together like a 10.
So what is your top 5 list?
So
top 3?
Top 6. top 6. Unfortunately, it was top 6. So I think, so I think we can start off with ones that, let's go maybe perhaps chronologically.
Sure.
Right? So in terms of release, I'm not going to talk about The One because we'll get to that in a second. But right after that, Alex Garland, Civil War.
Yeah.
Right? I think, and the reason why that movie made it to this list is Trump's victory.
Okay.
Right? Trump, Teflon Trump, bulletproof Trump, they've thrown everything at him. Nothing has, they haven't been able to, do anything with him. He's just like, indestructible right now. His hair is another thing, but, he himself, they haven't been able to do anything, and he won the election.
Yeah.
So the very fact that Civil War has made it to this list is again, I'm a big fan of Alex Garland. He's made some fantastic movies, right? An exceptional writer, both in film and TV. And why that movie, I think, is so relevant is because the movie in particular deals with a second civil war, if you will, modern America. The president in that movie is close to a Trump-like president.
Kind of, yeah.
Who's assumed like this complete, like it's autocratic. He's almost become a dictator. He's done away with, for example, the FBI.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, the person that
He's
Trump
also
is,
firing at his own people.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's a proper full-blown civil war. And then, crazily enough, Texas and California have joined hands together, and they're going
Which
against
is
unheard of.
kind of rare.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, blue state, red state going together. But besides the political relevance of the movie, there are moments in that film beautifully done.
Sure.
Right? You can disagree with me, I guess, after I'm done.
I will get to that
Yeah,
in a while.
get to that. And in particular, for me, why that movie stood out. And I remember watching this in the cinema, as one does. And it was that latter, the finale of the movie. And of course, the movie's been out for a while. So if you still have not seen the movie, there's a bunch of spoilers here. But the finale of that movie, in which DC's invaded, right? The Western forces or whatever they're called, they actually go in and, there's, fighting that you would see, for example, in the Middle East, as we saw unfortunately in Gaza, street fighting, like urban warfare. And it's happening on the streets of DC. There are monuments that have stood there for centuries are just being blown to pieces.
By their own people.
By their own people.
By their own army, I think.
Exactly. So, I mean, watching that, normally, I mean, I'm a sucker for action movies. But watching that, I didn't get that kind of hard-on, if you will, that you normally do when you watch these action movies. For me, it just made me feel so uncomfortable. It was such a disquieting effect.
Exactly. I think that was the main point of the whole film.
Absolutely.
That is why it's called Civil War. I don't think they want to, glamorize Civil War. If you obviously have seen Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I would love to compare it with Oppenheimer and say that even though Oppenheimer showed us a lot of good things along with a lot of bad things, but they had a small or an implicit kind of a message in which saying that those destructive bombs are not the solution.
No,
They wanted us to be scared of it. They were instilling fear inside of us. I feel Civil War also did the same thing. अक्सर हम लोग सुनते, we keep on hearing ये Civil War हो जाएगी तो बहुत perfect scene हो जाएगा. We will take over the governments. We will throw down the governments. We'll do this. We'll do that. Now, Civil War, the raw imagery that we saw in it, that is what I feel gives it an edge. That is why I feel, yes, it should have been one of the... It lands in that list of top 10. It's because it did not glamorize Civil War. It showed us in small pockets. If you have seen the film, or if you plan on watching the film, you will get to see that... especially with the way they have used photojournalism in it, and they have embedded those war journalists inside a civil war arena. And they have showed us that how difficult it's going to be for even normal people and even for those journalists to survive. There is nothing good about it. There's and absolutely not.
I think you hit the nail on its head when you said that they have not glamorized.
They have not glamorized.
War. Exactly. On film, on screen, on TV is often glamorized. You're like, wow. Right? In this, there's just...
Nobody would watch that film and say, okay, hum ek civil war chahiye, we need a civil war.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, and considering what happened on January 6th in America, we're going to take the capital and we're going to sort of, reclaim America and stuff like that. Even sort of everywhere else in the world, the idea of a civil war. But then you watch that and it made me feel so uncomfortable. And I don't think I've felt that uncomfortable watching violence before.
Exactly. Especially that scene.
Which one?
Jeremy Simmons, what's his name? Not Jeremy Simmons. The guy who, what kind of an American are you?
Oh, what's it called? That's Kirsten Dunst's husband. What's his name? The guy who looks like Matt Damon.
The guy who looks like Matt Damon.
I'm forgetting
that scene is so raw. Again, spoilers for you guys. But that scene is so raw. And that actually shows you how helpless people will get when it comes to when normal layman people, they pick up those guns, they pick up those weapons and then they start firing at you. And so there is nothing, again, I keep on saying that there is nothing good about Civil War in terms of...
In the right ways.
In the right ways, yeah.
And as a film, as a piece of filmmaking, what did you think of it? I mean... Do you think that sort of there were hallmarks of good filmmaking in it?
Yeah, I like the character of Kristen, even though I hate Kristen.
I
hated her ever since she came on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But उसके बाद मैंने उसकी जितनी भी फिल्में आई ना, I stopped watching those. I was like, I just don't like you. There is nothing wrong about her acting.
Sure, but you don't like
there is something about her that I just don't like. So again, Kristen Dunst's character, I forgot her character name.
I don't know her character's name either.
But Kristen Dunst's character had a lot of depth in it.
Yeah.
They created a character in which she has seen it all.
Yes,
she has done
yes.
it all.
Yep.
She is praised by the people on the ground. She's praised by people who picked up those arms.
Yeah.
Everybody knows her.
Yes.
And her character takes a very dramatic twist or turn at the very end of the film.
Yes.
When she sacrifices herself.
Yeah.
Now
because-
that immediate scene is what struck a chord in me, and I was
Right.
like, she belongs to a generation of hard and fast and hardcore hardened kind of a journalist.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they also have Jessie in it, the young girl.
Yes.
She is like easy-go-lucky kind of a girl.
Yeah, I mean, for her, it's just like it's her first outing for her, and I think there's that thrill involved.
Yeah.
With Kirsten Dunst, you have the seasoned, jaded professional
Exactly.
who just like is done. But she's still doing it, like almost mechanically, almost automatically.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, that last thing, because again, she's seen so much, but again, she's an observer.
Yeah.
So as an observer, she's a third party, completely objective.
Exactly.
And only in that last very scene does she step up and actually break with who she's been.
Exactly. She breaks character, she sacrifices herself, it's in a way, like handing that wo Olympics wala nahi hota,
passing
you
on the
just
torch.
passing on the torch to
yeah.
that younger generation. Now you guys are over there. One thing, the other thing I felt the editing of the film. I love the editing, especially at moments where they would switch to a photograph.
Yes.
Every click, and then they would turn it into black and white. It reminded me of those war pictures of the napalm girl, stuff like
from
that.
Vietnam.
From Vietnam.
Absolutely.
It had that flavor.
Yes.
So I feel the editing was good. Cinematography was again not that bad. It was exactly how it was supposed to be.
look,
As a journalist on the field, the camera was also acting as one.
Yes.
You had those rugged shots, you had those handheld camera movements, guerrilla movements and all, filming. Exactly. So I feel it was good enough.
So it definitely makes it to the list.
Definitely makes it to the list.
Right. Next, I think we'll go with Conclave. So Conclave is another really interesting one because again, it's sort of like, almost crept into sort of the discussion because it's a late release, considering that it came out October, November-ish.
Yeah.
Right? And considering that I feel at least, and the reason why this movie made it to my list is at the end of the day, the story, I'm not saying it's straightforward. They're basically selecting a new pope, right? So they go through that entire process. But the way that this movie is framed, the way that it's presented, is that it's not a straight up drama, it's a thriller.
Yeah.
And it's a thriller that has levels, especially with the ending, the way it ends.
Especially the ending,
But for me, the acting is sublime, especially Ralph Fiennes, and again, one of I think in that stable of British actors, he's definitely among sort of one of the greats, at least modern day.
True.
Everyone else, John Lithgow, Stanley Tucci, so many others.
Stanley, I think, is going to be nominated for it.
He should, because he has. I mean, he's even though he pops up in everything every now and then, he's just such a work. Even though he's spread all over the place, he's a fine actor.
Yeah.
Isabella Rossellini, who plays the nun, there's just so many in that. It's shot beautifully.
Yeah.
It is, and again, it is a movie that from start to finish had my interest.
Exactly. True.
I have encountered movies like this before. They come from a different generation, 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm not mentioning like, sort of the paranoid thrillers of the 70s or anything like that, but just these like sort of very workman-like dramas, right? This movie isn't that. This is a kind of. I'll tell you what. The reason. Let me just.
Sure.
The reason why I'm mentioning this movie is that this was the kind of movie that I, as a young man, not even a young man, I as like even a teenager, a boy, would see my father watching.
Yeah.
And I'd see him watching movies like this on the TV. I'd be like, nah, thanks a lot. This is maybe a movie I will catch when I'm your age.
When I'm your age, true.
But now here I am, maybe not his age, but now here I am watching this movie, and I feel that it is exemplary in its genre, where it's not a drama. It is something that transcends your basic, men in corners huddling, whispering, conspiring. It is so much more.
I think that is what makes it brilliant.
Yeah.
Is because it's a dialogue thriller. It's completely based on dialogue. You don't get to see a lot of action.
There's no action.
Even when there were bombs exploding, at that moment, even then you would feel कि action movie नहीं है ये. ठीक है? And it takes me back to 12 Angry Men.
Very good. Very good.
It takes me back to that film in which you just sitting there, you just listening, and then your interest keeps on. It gauges you with that momentum. This film also had that, but 12 Angry Men had one location.
Yeah. But this was essentially one location.
One location, but different, pickets or different pockets in that location.
Yeah.
Beautiful cinematography.
Yes.
Excellent.
Without a doubt.
I love the frames that they created.
Absolutely.
Every frame was kind of a painting.
Absolutely. And they benefited from the location.
Exactly.
Because the entire place is like...
Again, creating a Sistine chapel, environment for that set, that was... And I think that's the reason why it's being nominated for the set design as well.
Yeah, of course.
And the costume.
Yes.
But this is where I think we
disagree. Why, maybe not. Okay, go for it.
At the very end. Again, spoiler for you guys.
Yes.
At the very end, I feel you see, you introduce us to one issue. Okay? You introduce the whole issue is about the papacy.
Okay? Yes.
Who is going to be the next pope? This is a process that nobody is aware of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at this point, they had that dramatic edge that they can create drama around it. The drama was wonderful.
Yeah.
You had 4 or 5 cardinals who were,
all
up
vying
for
for...
Yeah. On every cardinal, you would think, everyone had their own motives.
Yeah.
Some wanted to be the first, colored race. Some wanted, to carry on the same Roman thing along. Some actually wanted power. Some did not want power. So you had everyone with their own motives.
Yeah.
Till that point, everything is fine.
Right.
At the very end, it's like you telling me that I had an accident, okay?
Yeah.
And the story is all about the accident. But then afterwards, you tell me, I've also been kidnapped.
You're right.
So the whole story then goes towards that kidnapping. So this also happens at the very end.
Yeah. I don't know if it's worth giving up this or not.
Yeah.
I mean, people can watch it and find out for themselves.
Let's try not to give it up.
I don't. Sure. The reason why I don't have as much of a problem with that is that it comes out from left field. You're not expecting something like that to hit you full on. There's something going on with that particular character. There's that foreshadowing which happens from the very first.
But that happens very, very minutely.
It's very subtle.
That foreshadowing.
That's very subtle. And that's why I think even as an adaptation, because this was a book, as an adaptation, I think it deserves accolades because, it's very, very subtle. You're like, there's something off with this guy, but okay, cool. Let's see how they play with it. Let's see how they run with it. And I think that kind of thing hits you like a ton of bricks because I did not expect that happening.
Yeah, neither. Yeah.
I was like, what? And then I was like, wait a second. I had to pause and then I had to quickly Google what they were even talking about because I was like, I'm not that familiar with what they just said with that particular medical term. So when they said that, I was like, Now, one thing in me, and I don't want to come out as a conservative or anything like that, but I'm definitely not this affected like sort of woke conversations in movies, right? And I'm sure people watching this will be like, okay, maybe they're making a point, considering it's 2024 and this, that, and the other.
They're trying to, shift.
They're trying to introduce that here. But I think maybe, I'm not very sure when this story was written, but I don't think that was the writer's intention or even the filmmakers. Whether it is or it isn't is up for debate. But I think that introducing this thing, it's a spanner in the works, right? It's like a fly in the ointment. It is such an unbelievable thing that I think that for me was like the icing on the cake. That after delivering this sort of rich, convoluted, process and movie and building this up, and then you have that on top. Yeah. I understand in your case that you were kind of maybe put off by it. Or you think
I was like, it had zyada ho gaya. It was. I feel it was unnecessary. You have already created a lot of ambiguity in our minds as an audience about this character.
Right.
Adding this additional information was just too much.
Too much.
Yeah, him winning the papacy is also was also a shocker.
Oh yeah, because
He delivered one speech before that in one of those scenes, and then
complete unknown, like nobody knew who he was.
Yeah, I wanted the Lawrence guy, Lawrence or Lenny.
Ray Fiennes,
to
be the guy.
I was rooting for him. Yeah,
in fact, I was expecting it to be him. I didn't know. Yeah.
And then out of the blue, this guy comes, at that point it's fine. But then you also introduce this information at the very end of the film. You're asking for too much from the audience. Yeah. So, but good costume, good designs, good story.
And good filmmaking.
Good film. Excellent.
We have to agree there.
Yeah, good film.
It is good filmmaking. Because this movie could have been very cheesy.
Yeah.
This movie could have been a very average thriller as well. But I think that the filmmaking...
Very boring as well because dialogue based.
Because I think it's just like men and they're talking about they want to do this and they want to do that. Who cares? You know, like who cares?
True.
What are the stakes?
True.
You know, so I think there, yes. So
I loved how they were portraying them to be normal human beings as well. Doing those, you could see a lot of them smoking.
The guy vaping.
The guy vaping.
A lot of people have spoken about that. And I think that was a decision by the filmmakers because the actor in question, he actually showed up on set once and he was in his costume and he's just vaping. And I think the character in the book doesn't even do that.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, no, you're going to do that. Let us have a cardinal vaping.
True.
So yeah. So there. Okay. You mentioned Netflix, and I think it's worthy of mentioning our next movie, which again I thought was a fine film, but again, any other year it wouldn't have necessarily made it to this list. But because there was not much to talk about, I thought we'd introduce this, and that's Rebel Ridge.
Rebel Ridge. I knew it. Actually, this would not have been on my top 5 even.
I agree with you. And the reason why
I have very weird kind of feelings for this film. It's hey, you tell us.
So the reason why, again, look, the reason why I'm even mentioning this movie is, and again, it is not in any way to detract or lessen the quality of this movie. But for me, again, there have been a bunch of movies in this year. Thrillers, action, blah this, blah that, right? None of them, at least for me, delivered the kind of goods that Rebel Ridge did. A, because of the story, and B, for me in particular, the leading man. He was really good.
He was good.
Aaron Pierre, a what's it called, a British actor.
He does a lot of good films.
He does, yeah. But the thing is, again, he is an actor that I remember seeing him in this, what's it called, in Krypton, which was like, Superman TV show. In those days, he was like kind of scrawny and thin. Then he bulks up. Then I saw him in that movie, M. Night Shyamalan, whatever, his movie Old, in which he had a minor role. And then I saw him in this. And in this, dude, the guy is leading man material. Yeah. Very good in that role.
He acts through his eyes.
Oh my God. And the guy is just like,
too expressive.
Physical, like, he's a physical presence.
Yes.
This guy again, I mean, sort of like, if you look at the director's other works like Green Room and stuff like that, he's a really solid director. Yeah. Very original stories. And in this one in particular, I think that, a black man going up against white racist cops. It's like a fantasy I think all of us want to live.
But it's the same old story.
It is the same old story. I don't deny that. And again, I'm not trying to say that the movie doesn't, for me, it would have been an honorable mention any other year. But this year, because I have to keep on just harping on this point because I couldn't really think of anything else, it made it to the list. And I don't think, and I think it deserves to be, compared to so much more that have been out this year, it deserves to be there.
Okay. First Blood. It reminds me of First Blood.
Well, yeah, I mean, it definitely...
But then it's almost the same story. A guy has, same... talent, same techniques.
I would say, almost, pretty much a very similar.
Going up against.
He's referring to Rambo, First Blood, Rambo Part 1, Sylvester Stallone. And again, in that movie, it's about a Vietnam War vet, comes back, and he's a drifter because again, a lot of these Vietnam vets didn't really have much to come back to and they were hated. Rolls into town, and surprisingly, because again, it's a white actor.
Yeah.
The white cop, played by Brian Dennehy, he doesn't want these guys in his town because he has a nice, clean town. He doesn't want these vagabonds rolling in. So that's where the tension and everything happens. In this case, it's slightly different, but yes, very similar in theme.
Yeah.
Right. Again, a former, what's it called, U.S. Army, like, a Marine.
And he specializes in something.
Yeah, he's I think a judo or jiu-jitsu, what's it called, instructor.
There was a instructor.
He's an instructor, yeah, exactly. So that's why he's
short form of something smart or pata nahi kya.
Yeah, so that's why he's able to, what's it called, beat everyone up in town.
Yeah.
But as a thriller, honestly, I don't think that I've seen anything that was as good as this movie this year. Name me another. Well, there is another movie that you didn't get to watch, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I didn't see any action movie that came even close to this, even though I wanted more action from this movie.
Okay.
I definitely wanted more action from this movie.
It keeps on, you on the edge. Abhi aane wale hai.
There's just going to be like a big blow-up scene.
I think that is also, I would give points to that as well. That is very difficult to do when you want to, give out those action, you want to give out those scenes, but then you keep on holding it back.
Yeah.
For the audience, teasing the audience. Aur chahiye, lekin aapko mil nahi raha hota.
So
this is a difficult thing to do.
I think it's
because going all out is easy.
Oh.
But restraining and keeping the information, keeping the action packed, and it's a very calculated action. Even the action scene that happens in front of the police station.
In the end, exactly.
It's very calculated and it's very,
it's restrained.
It's restrained. It does not, fall all out. And ends that way. But it's okay.
I get that.
Again, if there is, you're correct in saying that there is nothing that we can compare it with.
Yeah.
And we can say in contrast, कि यार वो ज़्यादा अच्छी थी इससे, तो हाँ.
I mean, like, for example, there was this terrible movie that came out. I mean, it was Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, and directed by, the same guy who did...
Matt Damon, Casey Affleck.
Abhi aayi thi. Abhi nahi, it was like, I think in the summers or something like that. Wise Guys or something like that. Right?
There was another one, now that you mentioned.
I'm forgetting the name of the director. God, I shouldn't be forgetting the guy's name.
Just wo tha, who's that boxer?
Boxer?
The mad boxer.
Oh, what's it called? Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. What's it called? Jake Gyllenhaal. What's it called? Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Roadhouse. Yeah. So, I mean, that was a remake of the original Patrick Swayze movie. And
Roadhouse was good, man.
You liked Roadhouse?
I liked Roadhouse.
I mean, again, the director, I'm forgetting, what is the director's name, man? He's directed really good movies like Looper. No, he didn't direct Looper, sorry. That was Ryan Johnson. He directed Live, Die, Repeat. क्या उसका नाम है यार? I like the guy. Put it in.
Why isn't IMDb working?
I don't know, man. Maybe the internet's not working today. But Roadhouse was okay, but I don't think that it was a necessary remake. Like, we didn't need to have a remake of the original.
But I didn't know it's a remake.
It's a remake.
But even though if you don't watch it as a remake, I think it's a good film.
I mean, like, it introduces, like, the story, at least the character and the idea to a whole new audience.
It's a 1989 remake.
Yeah, Patrick Swayze is like
Patrick Swayze.
It's a classic. Yes, but who directed this one? Iska kya naam hai?
Patrick Swayze wali.
No, the new one. I'm forgetting his name. Doug Liman. Yes, that's the one. So Doug Liman also did what's it called, that other one with it was The Wise Guys or something, or Wise Guys, or I don't know what it was. It was just like such a wasted opportunity, considering that you have talents like Matt Damon and Casey Affleck in your movie and other actors to boot, but it just didn't really do it for me. So in terms of thrillers, I mean, that's why I'm talking about Rebel Ridge today. Maybe otherwise not.
Rebel Ridge also reminds me of Rebel Moon.
Let us not talk about Zack Snyder and whatever shit Netflix keeps on telling him to make, or just keep paying him to make, because I don't know what that guy's on.
I liked Rebel Moon.
You liked? Come on, man.
Both of them, I think, in
that
one
movie
go.
If it was like an hour long, it was 50 minutes of slow-mo. Come on, man.
Well, achhi thi, yeah. It wasn't that bad. I think you can sit down and you can enjoy it over, a slice of pizza or something.
As a popcorn movie, sure. We've had a lot of that shit. We've had a lot of that shit this year. I mean, Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine was an example of that. No, it's just like whatever movie. Turn it on.
What are your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine? नहीं ना, मतलब थोड़ा खराब की है ना.
यार बात ये है कि Ryan Reynolds has, besides being now sued for $400 million, I feel that Ryan Reynolds' brand is just fading.
Yeah.
I mean, when he came out with the first Deadpool, we were like, oh my God, Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
He's this fast talking, trash talking, like, motor mouth guy.
Yeah.
And we love that sense of humor. But like, by Deadpool 2, I was just like, no, man. And then he's been in such shit movies ever since. And Deadpool and Wolverine was another missed opportunity. It's just an indicative of Marvel's decline.
I hated the part where they are, just messing up the क्या था वो? Going back and all the universe and all.
Well, I mean,
time loops and stuff.
All of that stuff and alternate universes and all of that stuff. But yeah,
alternate universes and all.
I mean, besides
multiverse.
Besides a couple of what's it called, decent jokes, there were some nice ones. Other than that, the movie was instantly forgettable. True. I don't think I needed to watch that. Of course, it made a shit ton of money, as it always will, as these movies always will.
I think the credit goes to the part 1 and all, where it all started from.
It kind of laid the groundwork.
Yeah.
And then people really wanted to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again, which I think, again, he is a fine actor. He, again, gave us a really decent Wolverine. So I'm okay with that. Now, moving on from that, I think we can move on to, because we are talking of what's it called, more popcorny stuff. But this movie is definitely not a popcorn film. It is animated and it is Flow. So there have been, again, there's tons of animated movies releasing every year because, again, you got to keep
I think
the kiddies.
That one should be your number 1 on your list.
Actually, no. You know what my number 1 is.
I know, but this one should be.
But Flow, and forgive me for not being able to pronounce the director's name.
Nobody can.
Yeah, exactly. But he's a Lithuanian, I believe.
Latvian.
Forgive me for that as well.
Let me try and pronounce his name.
If we can. What's the guy's name?
His name is Gints Zilbalodis. Gints Zilbalodis.
Apologies.
We're trying our best over here.
Right.
Do you want to give it a try?
Gints. I think it would be Gints. Zilbalodis. I have seen this. I saw what's it called?
Lovely work.
Away. Yeah, I remember seeing this in 2019. But Flow. So the reason why I'm mentioning other animated movies this year, there was, of course, The Wild Robot, which I really didn't like. And I hope that doesn't get the Oscar over this. They've both been nominated.
They are nominated.
They'll both be nominated. And then, of course, there is Wallace and Gromit. But I'm not sure if that is... Well, for the Academy, the rules apply because that is a movie that has been... The movie released... In England, it released in 2023 on Netflix and released in 2024, and on Netflix it released in 2025. So that still kind of makes the cut for the Oscars.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm not mentioning Wallace and Gromit is because for me that's a 2025 movie.
Yeah.
Back to Flow, and the reason why I don't know if it struck a chord for you, but it's a movie as much about the possibilities of animation, but also climate change.
And also, it talks about everything.
There's so much in this movie.
It talks about empathy, friendship, relationships. Oof, I love it.
It is it is, and not a one word of dialogue.
Yeah. Not a single word.
You
don't even have names for the characters.
No. And the characters are all animals. They're all domestic. Well, in some cases, they're domestic animals.
Yeah.
In our lead character in this case is a cat. Gender undetermined. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. Some dogs.
You have a lab.
You have a Labrador, definitely. Then you have
an otter.
No, it's not an otter. It's a...
The brown wala kya hai wo?
It's a capybara.
Capybara. I thought it's an otter.
No. It's a capybara because of its
then you have King Julian.
you have the lemur, and then you have that bird, which I don't know.
I don't know what bird is.
It's not a real bird. Definitely not a real bird. But then I think that is the whole point of the movie, is that as it breaks from reality, it slowly becomes this unreality. And as it sort of goes deeper into that, the landscape starts to change accordingly.
Yeah.
But the reason why for me, and why at least watching the first, I would say 15 to 20 minutes of the movie was so unnerving, is because you see, again, it's climate change, rising sea levels.
Yeah.
We always think of these natural disasters in terms of the human cost.
Yeah.
We never talk about it, of what that cost is going to be on the natural world. And in this case, the natural world. And I think this is a brilliant decision by the director. Because the thing is, you see like stuff like for example, lions might die. You're like, I've never seen a lion in real life. So maybe, what's it called? There's a remove there.
There isn't a connection.
There isn't a connection. But when you see like a house cat, right? Something that you see like that.
Yeah.
And it
was a very good decision.
A great decision. And you see that at risk of drowning. Because we're all be like, there's going to be life.
Even though if you haven't, ever had a cat, a pet cat, you can still feel. You still feel. Dekha hoga, kabhi suna hoga, kabhi observe
and that's
kiya
where
hoga.
I think that point where you're saying the empathy part.
The empathy part.
For me, I mean, there's that one particular scene, when it's standing on top of that gigantic other cat, and the water level just keeps on rising. Oh, again, you don't expect animated movies to do that to you.
Exactly.
But wow.
I honestly love it.
Oh yeah.
I think it, even though your first thing was it's about climate change.
Yeah.
Yes, it is about climate change. It's not just about climate change.
Not just, of course, yeah.
And then the primary criticism on climate change films is this, that they usually take a very extremist kind of a position. The earth has stopped revolving, for example.
Exactly.
The ozone layer is no more over there. A lot of pani, water world, पूरी दुनिया जो है पानी बन चुकी है.
Yeah.
It's an extremist point of view.
Yes.
Jump चुका है Polar Express and stuff like that. So this film, on the other hand, even though it gives us that feeling of the sea level rising.
Yeah.
At the very end, what happens at the very end? It goes back again. So I feel it creates that film arc in a way कि it gives us a feel कि ये हो सकता है.
Yes.
और फिर कहेगा चलो ठीक है, अब तुम fantasy से reality वापस आ जाओ. ठीक है ना? तो I love that part where the sea level automatically just goes back again.
And that's, I think, that's a theme, a running theme throughout this movie, is this sort of like, the very fine line between reality and fantasy, reality and unreality.
Exactly.
Extremes. There's a lot of that going on in this movie. It is a movie that, again, as adults we watched. I would love to know what a child watching this movie, how they would react to this movie.
I also love the part where, as Muslims, we keep on listening to that, na nafsa nafsi wali baat hogi, qiyamat ka din aayega to.
Yeah.
We also got to see this element in animals.
Yes.
The part where
they're trying to,
everyone is trying to escape. Nobody wants to care for the other person. But then you have this one or two particular animals who जो उनकी लड़ाई होती है उस bird के साथ.
Yes, bird के साथ. Yeah.
कि turn the boat around. Let's get them on board.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's so, it hits the emotional part in our hearts कि यार ये जो है ना ये an animated film is not supposed to do that.
No.
An animated film, it's very rare that you get to connect with the characters without having any sort of dialogue, without knowing their names.
And in this case, the character animals. And it's not even talking animals. Like it's not like Babe, for example, the talking pig.
Lion King, Mufasa वगैरह इनके साथ तो आपको चलो कोई bond कोई हल्का सा create हुआ है.
And ये देख ले, and I'm sure you can take out the numbers on this. I mean, Mufasa released back in December. Us people, I'm sure they must have spent like 200 million or something on that shit, right? All of the best that Hollywood could offer. And here's a small movie coming out of a small country, no offense, of course, to Latvia, but and iski budget, I mean,
27 million tha
27 million, right?
Isse bhi kam tha.
Right?
Yeah.
And this movie is a powerhouse of a
powerhouse,
movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wish it wins. It is nominated. I wish it wins.
I hope it does. I think the only reason why maybe there's a bar to it winning is because what's it called? It's also been nominated in the second category in what's it called? I think Best International Film as well. Film, so, there might be a consolation prize, but I think the Indian movie in the Best International Film, All We Imagine Is Light, that may take it. Although I fell asleep watching the movie, but maybe I was just tired on that day. But Flow, I think, is an animation film that will stand the test of time, and I think in years to come it will be one of the greats.
It also gives out it talks or it hits the topic of friendship.
Absolutely.
Remember that scene in which the lab is stuck on that ship still?
Yeah, and they have to somehow save the thing.
And then those 3 dogs who are with him, they run away. But then these guys come together, this group. Yeah. And it's a very disparate group because it's like a cat, a dog, a capybara, and a lemur. So they're all just things. Yeah. And I think the fantasy elements in this magical feel that the movie had, especially with the scene where the bird it goes somewhere. वो क्या था मेरे ख्याल से I think it dies away. That is one particular scene that I could not understand.
It's elevated to like some other plane of it's elevated.
मतलब मर जाता है ना मेरे ख्याल से.
नहीं, I think it becomes something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that वही bird है ना जो sacrifice
करता है. Yes. So the animation itself, for me, the reason I think it stands out is because it reminds me of Tomb Raider and all of those that came out on the PS1. there's this sort of like, and I think this is a deliberate decision on the part of the director. I don't know. But the animation isn't that kind of slick kind of animation that you'd expect from something like this. But there's something was so appealing about it.
Technically, I also don't know how they did it, but
because we've had a lot of like animation coming out of Pakistan as well.
हम कहते हैं perfect होना चाहिए. It's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
That's why I'm referring back to that. Like remember
जब नहीं था अच्छा ज़माना
नहीं PS1 में जब आया था,
and it's definitely not because Latvia does not have that technology or something
and
like that.
It was a conscious decision.
It was a conscious decision.
Like remember Lara Croft in PS1 and Tomb Raider, like you just blocks and stuff like that. This movie kind of like sometimes you're like, wait, is that pixelating? वो थोड़ा feel आ रही थी इस movie में, but
वो जान के दिया.
There was something about
I think he wanted it to feel like an animation.
Yes.
एक होता है ना कि in animation you try to real लगना चाहिए.
Just like
ये चाह रहा था कि हाँ ये चाह रहा था कि यार लगे कि ये animated film है.
Yeah.
Maybe that was one of the reasons.
I know why you're saying this, and yes, for you I can make this concession. It is most definitely one of the best movies of this year. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
It's again for me, films are one that resonates with me and creates that connection with me.
Yes.
This film had a lot of connection. A lot of connection. It had a lot of themes, had a lot of categories. I can view it with different lenses. Climate change चलो एक हो गया, nature एक हो गया, animals उनकी अपनी जिंदगी कैसी है, what regarding friendship and all, relationships and all. So it encompasses a lot of themes, a lot of categories that you can connect with. That's why I love the film. Easily
one of the best. Now there's one movie that you didn't get to watch because I don't think you could find it, and I think that's unfortunately a problem with this movie, is that not a lot of people have seen it, maybe even will see it, simply because again it's a small movie. I just discovered it one day, and I will not mention the website lest it gets banned or something like that. You don't want to get it pulled down, but it was on what's it called, one of these websites. And what struck me was, of course, and I hope that pops up in post where you can actually see the poster. I really liked the poster. I was like, let me look into this. It stars Nick Stahl, who hasn't been in like any major movie since like I think Terminator 3, back in 2003. The director again has worked on a couple of projects, but I mean like nothing that you would say, okay, it's that. So the movie is called What You Wish For. It is a thriller, and honestly, man, it is this gut punch of a movie, and I really want you guys to watch this.
Okay.
I can't give it away because again, it is a massive spoiler. I can't give it away, but a lot of the times the thing is that when you think, there's a twist at the end of the movie, again you think back to M. Night, whatever, right? That there's going to be this twist at the end of the movie, and it's going to be like, really? But this movie, the twist in it is so. Again, I just don't know how to put it in words without giving it away.
What's it all about? I think it's...
So essentially, it's about this guy who's like down on his luck. He's a chef. He's running away from his debtors because he owes a lot of people money. So his friend calls him down to Colombia, who's also like... He's a celebrity chef.
Okay.
Calls him down there to spend the weekend with him. And... this friend, this celebrity chef, like he's a private chef, so he works like he's a private chef, and he's living the life of Riley. Like he has money, he's living in these fantastic houses, and like he's like all over the world. Like one day he's here, next day he's there, and this guy's very envious of him.
Okay,
he's like, I wish I could be you, and that's why the title comes from What You Wish For. Be careful what you wish for, right? Something happens, and this guy is presented with this choice.
Okay.
And that's where this movie now sort of goes in this direction. That again, I would love to tell you guys. I can't. But the reason why this movie has stuck with me, and the reason why I've been telling everyone who, like myself, likes watching movies to watch it, is that there have been a lot of thrillers coming out this movie. I mean, here's this one. Zoe Kravitz directed it, starring Channing Tatum. What is that movie?
And Lucy वाली लड़की.
Lucy?
Channing Tatum and
who
who plays Lucy?
I don't know who.
Lucy the film.
Scarlett Johansson?
Scarlett Johansson.
No. That was another movie. That was what's it called? I mean,
Fly Me to the Moon.
Fly Me to the Moon. That was like some.
Oh, nay.
I wasn't going to watch that.
Nay.
You watched that?
I liked it. Oh, I liked it. Fly Me to the Moon is good, man.
Okay. So, what's it called? Okay, man.
Channing Tatum की और कौन सी है ये?
अभी देख लो ना यार उसको. Quickly check it because Zoe Kravitz, she directed it. अभी आई थी. Like अभी का मतलब है कि like latter half of 2024.
After 3 years.
नहीं उसका film, check it out. I mean, what's the name of that movie, man? It's not Blind Spot.
How can you forget a film's name?
Hey, when you watch 214 movies, one or two are going to slip through the cracks. But I definitely...
Blink Twice. Yes, I've seen this one.
Okay. So now, Blink Twice is another one of those thrillers in which it has like, this premise. You have to start working it out. And then there's a twist at the end. I would want you guys, if you do, compare Blink Twice to What You Wish For, which is a superior movie. Okay. What You Wish For is a superior movie. And that is why 100%, I don't care if it's this year or any other year, What You Wish For me, would make it to my top 10.
Okay.
It is so cleverly done, this movie, right? Set malfunction. It is so cleverly done, number one. It is exemplary of a movie that relies not on sets, not on money, not on actors, but a very, very clever idea and perfect, I would say.
So the script you're saying
is... the script. Yeah. Perfect execution.
Okay. I will watch it.
So definitely a movie. And the reason I am mentioning even Blink Twice is that this is the first movie in all the years that I've been watching movies that it had a trigger warning at the start of the movie.
I did?
Yes.
I must have skipped.
You must have skipped that part. And I think this is a discussion for some other day. And I think our producers are even winking at us to like, wrap this shit up. We want to go home. So I think now we can move on to my first movie
of 2024.
And you can put a drum roll in there as well. And that is Dune 2.
Dune 2.
Nothing comes close to that movie. Even though technically it's a 2023 movie, it should have been released in November 2023. But thank the writer's strike, released in March of 2024. And even after all these months, almost a year now, I am still under the spell of that movie. I do have certain issues with it, but those are not, I think, certain decisions that he made with the source material, because again, I've read the books. And also as a movie itself, I really don't like when you are a director of such stature that sometimes, and I know that he's said this in interviews, that he didn't really cave into studio demands or something like that. But there is this trend that I've seen in films over the past, I would say 2 or 3 years, that even shit movies are like 2 hours now.
Yeah.
But good movies, they just have to be like, okay, 2 hours, 30 minutes, and that's it. Anything more and audiences are going to go to sleep. Yeah. No, treat your audiences with some respect. Treat them with some, that there is intelligence on the other end.
Yeah.
They would want to watch a movie like Dune, like, for example, Blade Runner 2049, which is directed by Denis Villeneuve, which I could have sat through for, like, if it was a 5-hour movie, I would sit through it.
Yeah.
If Dune 2 were a 10-hour movie, I would sit through it, just because I don't think that at any point in that movie, I was not enraptured by just everything that was going on. Whether it was sound, whether it was audio, or visually. There was nothing in that did not sort of grab me by the throat, right? Or by the balls. And like, sort of tell me that, yes, this is what film is. This is what cinema is.
Cinema is true.
And that is where this director, and I really hope that he takes home the Oscar this year, because, there have been other directors who've been nominated, but I don't think that they're even remotely in the same class as this guy. Sure, I mean, maybe it's not a genre for everybody. I mean, like, sci-fi, space opera, whatever, this, that, and the other. Maybe it's not. But if you can sort of kind of divorce the two and just look at it as a movie.
So let's say if we remove the cinematic elements from the film.
Yeah.
In terms of set design, lighting and stuff.
Set design.
What do you think about the story?
Okay, so the thing is again, I am partial to it because I come to it from the books.
Yeah.
Right? what do you? Have you? You haven't read the books, right?
I haven't read.
Okay, so again, for you as somebody who hasn't been biased to it, what would you think of it? What did you think of the story? What was it for you that made
I love those science fictional kind of fantasy driven world that people create in films.
Right.
I liked it.
Okay.
I like the story. It's not something that would grip me in terms of story.
Okay.
In terms of story,
fine.
Cinematically, yes. Excellent.
Yep.
Coming from Blade Runner and all.
Yeah.
Coming from that dimension. So, but the story itself, I feel
I get that.
इसीलिए मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ कि if we just disconnect the cinematic elements from the story and then just gauge upon the story and see what is the story all about. It's again a prophecy that has to take place.
Sure.
In simple words.
And there are people who would criticize it as like a white savior.
Yeah.
Coming to a
Messiah
and all of that stuff. But for me, and I think this was particularly relevant considering the unfortunate year that we have had, but the Gazans have had.
Yeah.
I looked at this movie, and every time I would look at Fremen, I would see Hamas. Hamas taking on, sort of like, the occupiers.
What were they called?
The Harkonnens.
The Harkonnens.
And again, those guys are white, these guys are brown. And maybe, I mean, sort of, again, this movie, the story originally was inspired, Frank Herbert, watching Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
So even in that Lawrence of Arabia, based on, on actual events, that is, again, taking on the empire.
Yeah.
In this case, it was like, the Arabs taking on the Turkish Empire, the Caliphate. But I mean, in this in particular, which is why I really appreciate the fact that they cast predominantly for the Fremen colored people. There are no white people in this. So every time I would look at them, right, I would see that. And that would sort of really, number one, resonate with me, number one. Number two, seeing Islamic culture, Arabian culture presented in a way that isn't your usual Allahu Akbar, Bin Laden, blow shit up type stuff.
Yeah.
In this, they're the heroes.
True.
Right? For me also, that's also another thing that really ticks my box. Right? Because you never see that presented on film. You often see, like, for example, if Muslims are, whenever they are on screen, either concessions are being made. Okay, these are Muslims, they don't know any better, but they can be better.
Yeah.
Right? Or these guys are just the worst. In this case, even though, of course, they're not exactly Muslim or anything like that, but again, they're presented in a way that it's hard to think of any other culture but these people. For me, as a Muslim, it really is something that I can rally behind and say, yes, finally, a portrayal that is okay with me, that sort of gels with me. And of course, it's just filmmaking. It's pure cinema.
True. That is what films are supposed to do. Every
single element in that movie, every single thing is working.
Yeah.
It's not like, the acting is bad, but the special effects are good. The music is great, but I don't know, something else is bad, the sets are bad or something like that. That is just pure cinema.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, I don't see how any other movie compares to Dune 2.
True. Are you sure you're not jumping on the bandwagon?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Because again, I've seen every movie this guy's put out, and I am a firm believer that, again, he is a cinema great. He is, I hope God gives him a long life and he produces a lot more movies, makes a lot more film. But within the span of, I would say, 15 years, this guy's been able to establish himself as, again, a cinema great. Yeah. Like, not somebody who has potential. He's already established himself as a singular voice in cinema. And again, somebody who, just delivers. I don't think he's had a single movie to date that has been bad. That's been not bad. That's been not less than great.
And he keeps on improving. If you think about Blade Runner, you think, yaar, isse acha aur kya hi banayenge?
Kya hi bana sakta hai?
Then he produces Dune.
And remember, we watched Blade Runner. We dissected it.
We did.
That was the thing that I presented.
The one you threw me out of the class.
Good times. One mention, I guess, before we go, one more thing, and I regret not watching this, but that was because Pakistan is Pakistan and you can never get to the cinema here because things are always closed, is The Glass Worker.
वो जो हमारे उसने
हमारा
बनाई
जो animated movie था, जी, जी,
बनाई,
जी, जी.
yes.
So that was a movie that I desperately wanted to watch. Unfortunately, I mean, cinemas में अभी चल रहा है या नहीं चल रहा.
मेरे ख्याल से चल रहा है.
I mean, if it's at Centaurus, I refuse to. If it's at Centaurus, I refuse to go to Centaurus.
नहीं यार, क्यों यार?
नहीं यार, उधर तो it's not the. Sorry, I sound like a snob.
ये हम काट देंगे.
Yeah, हम काट देंगे. Sorry, I don't want to sound like a snob, but yeah. But yes, that's a movie that I really, really wanted to watch this year. Every time I was like, I'm gonna go to the cinema. इधर container लगे थे, couldn't get to the cinema. Right? I hope it's released digitally very soon. Because I think that was our submission to the Oscars. Yes, but I don't think it's made the cut to
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But the very fact that it's been done,
वो ही काफी है.
वो भी काफी है. So I really.
And then the idea of thinking यार उसको सारा कुछ हाथ से draw.
It's a hand-drawn thing in this day and age, big deal. So I'm really looking forward to that whenever I get the chance. But yes, that is my top 6 movies.
Top 6 movies.
Out of
200 and something.
214. Yeah. So, yes. Stay tuned for more episodes when myself and Akram.
Next year, probably he will have top 3 films.
No. Hopefully this year.
And then the next year he will not have any films.
Just one movie. But yeah, I think we're definitely going to do a show on what 2025 has in store. So yes, thank you for watching and see you guys very, very soon. Thank you.
Very soon. Thank you.
Thanks. Turn it off.
पहले देखो रिकॉर्ड हो भी रहा था या नहीं? यार ये तो बंद है क्या?